Hey there, everybody. Welcome to this episode of CMPAC Spotlight, where we shine the spotlight on our producers here at CMPAC so you get a little glimpse behind the scenes of what's going on with them. And tonight's spotlight is on Miss Linda Carr of Empowerment for Life with Linda Carr.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing well and so glad to see you with us tonight.
I'm happy to see you again, and I'm happy to be here. We're getting ready to embark into a new year, so I'm excited.
Yes, absolutely. Looking forward to some new things. Mm-hmm. And I want to talk about your show, and we're going to talk about what's going to be new for that. Mm-hmm. But let's take it back a little bit and talk about when you actually started the show.
Ooh, when I actually started the show, that was about 10 years ago, actually.
Wow.
And time flies when you're having fun, and I've had a blast here in the studio working with everyone at Access 21. So just to rewind, I came across the show. It was on Access 21 station, and it began to be a habit, you know, to just to tune in and out. And I recall one day in particular, I was in college working on my second degree with one of my coworkers by the name of Marlene Denson.
Okay.
Love her. And she told me that, she said, Linda, you need to just go ahead and start you a show. You're always watching that channel. I'm like, no, I'm not. She's like, yes, you are not. And we're, you know, girlfriends talk. She said, yeah, just go ahead and do it. Here's the number. I said, what? Here's the number. Just call them. I was like, oh. Okay, and I wrote the number down and showed up that Monday, and the rest is history, really.
Wow, it is history because you have a lot of things on your show that kind of talk about some history, whether it's people's history or the history of different places. And then when you talk to people in particular, and you talk about their life history, what has been some of the most intriguing things for you?
Well, I am a preacher's kid.
Okay.
I love people from all different ethnicities and backgrounds. So I just love how, you know, they tell their story. And it's all about telling that story. Everyone has value. Everyone has a uniqueness that they bring to the table, to the story.
That's right.
So what I'd like to do, and the best format that I found at the time was Access 21, to be able to express that, help them to express that. Yeah.
Well, you know, you and I actually met before I knew you even had a show here at Access.
Yes, we did.
And it was out in the community. I remember that we were talking about like reconciliation within our city.
Yes.
After the shooting death of a young man and by a police officer. And our community was really up in arms, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was at Nations for a Community Church where Pastor Davis and Pastor Cynthia Davis pastored the church at that time. They were very compassionate about the community. You know, they have a long history of, you know, of bringing people together and reconciliation. So yeah, that was one of the things that they did in the community, as well as bring people together in like the summertime for classes. So, but that event, yeah, it was a phenomenal event. I met a lot of nice people, people that are passionate about people that want to see people come together and grow and just learn from each other's culture.
Right.
So to speak. So yeah, that's where I met you.
Exactly. And it was really, really awesome to be able to engage in that, because I was just coming back to Charlotte, my home, and to know that that was going on, to know that people were doing what they needed to do to reach out in the community at a time that was so volatile.
Right. And you know what, Dawn? I just believe that the church sometimes get a bad rep. You
Really?
know, sometimes some people believe that the church, you know, they don't give back and they don't care and you know, so on and so on. But I truly believe that the church does care. I'm a part of some more community groups, as you know, and you know, just got finished feeding the community like back to back, and sometimes putting some of that together and finding volunteers is a little difficult from time to time, especially during COVID season, which is where we're at right now. I'm not giving any glory to COVID, but for right now, you know, people are in need. People are without jobs. You know, some people need people to watch their children,
Yeah.
stay at home, and then their moms are going, like my
Right.
sister, she's like, come babysit, I'm like, wait a minute,
Right.
so there's so much going on in this world, and of course, you have the police killing, but there's I know some good police officers, so,
Right.
and that are committed to building the community.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what we need. And getting back to your show, in terms of how you have been able to see some of these things, the church giving back, the different community groups, and the different activities that you're involved in the community, how does that translate to your show? How do you bring that into your show?
Well, one of the segments that I have is a family and community segment. And on the family and community segment, we talk about the family dynamics, the mother's role, the father's role, the sons, the daughter, the aunts, the big mamas, may hear about. So, I just think it takes a village. It really does take a village to bring everything together, and we can't do it individually. We have to do it collectively on a collective level.
Right.
I was just sharing with someone at another community event that it seems like gone was the day of, you would be able to go over to your neighbor's house and just borrow some sugar. But that neighbor would expect that cup of sugar back when you went to the store. Everybody's like, oh, no, I don't think I can trust them. So there's a lack of trust going on, especially now.
Right.
You have the election going on, and everything's a little topsy-turvy right now.
So when you talk about, that trust and that village, what do you think can be something that we can highlight, or maybe you've already highlighted, or maybe you plan to do that on your show, that would point to the need for that village and that trust?
Well, one of the things that I do that I'm very passionate about, I'm a certified domestic violence advocate, as also a certified mediator and all this other stuff like that.
Okay.
But for the most part, I've noticed that the stats have gone up tremendously as far as domestic violence is concerned, because what is a majority, there are majority women that are facing, the violence on their end. So the percentage is really, really high for that. So I do focus in on that sometimes. But for right now, what I feel we need to grab hold to is God. The faith in God. And a lot of times on my show, you'll hear me speak about Jesus, you'll hear me speak about God. It's not 100% all of the time, but you will hear that because that is my faith. And I know that has never failed me. So I will pay homage to God. I will lift up the name of Jesus because I know that the name of Jesus, it saves, it reconciles, it brings together people. It's love, so that's where I'm coming from.
Well, it's so interesting you brought up domestic violence, because I was watching one of your episodes and it was on domestic violence.
Okay.
And the young lady talked about how she grew up seeing that. Her mom was physically abused and I guess emotionally abused by her, either her dad or stepdad. And then she found out that her mom's mom, her grandmom, was also in that situation. And then she ended up getting in that situation. It was like a cycle.
Yeah, it's like what we would call in this day and era a generational curse.
Generational curse, okay.
And I actually spoke with her, because I'm a coach, I'm empowerment coach as well, on a regular. Hey, Peach's kid. So to speak with her on the surface level first, and then just kind of build a little bit so you can build trust. I spoke with her about that just to get her to realize, hey, and I think she actually realized that when she was there speaking with me, when she was talking with, sometimes, the guests will come back and say, hey, I thank you for, allowing me the opportunity to be on your show, because I realized all these things that come out. And of course, my shows, most of the shows are like a half an hour show, but yet, there's so much that unpacks even after the show. Okay,
so what you're saying is that while you were interviewing her, there were things that were coming out that she didn't realize she was going through or had not dealt with? Correct. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
it happens a lot.
I'm sure it sounds like it's kind of like a therapy session. Yeah. And what I saw was how she talked about being young and getting involved with a young man. And then when she got married, it was like very volatile, very rocky, and she didn't see things coming or the red flags beforehand.
Right.
Yeah, so did you get a good response from that?
Well, actually I did. I tried to embrace the level that everyone is on. Not to say that I'm way over here or way up here, but just embrace the person where they're at, because you just never know the mindset of someone. You never know if someone is suicidal. You never know whether it's just that one hug, that one word that will help them just kind of stabilize them. So I just tried to, even prior to the show, just reach out to them and say, hey, how are you doing? Okay, I'm going to ask you a set of questions. Are you comfortable with this? You know, and
Yeah,
we'll
when it's something like that.
Right, because sometimes there are some triggers, and I'm glad to be blessed to have that training, so I'll know what to look out for as well.
Sure.
Even while interviewing, and I don't think a lot of people think about that. Sometimes they're in there just for the glory and be like, no, I'm going to ask this question to get a response. But no, I had criers on my show. I don't need any more criers.
You got to be careful.
You have to be very delicate when you're speaking with people like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So on the same subject of getting responses, you know, like from the viewers, if they see an episode like that or something else that you've talked about, talk to us about the response that you've gotten from the viewers.
Oh, wow. Yes. Wow. It's been quite a few, which I'm excited about. I know there was some seniors, I'll say, and that made me feel so good. It was 2 seniors, and I actually bumped into them in the hallway here at Access 21.
Okay.
And they were like, you look familiar. Your name is, you know, we went through that, and then of course I was like, oh, okay.
Right.
They're like, oh, I saw your show. And her friend said, I saw your show too. I was like, well, which one? They were able to tell me which show it was. One was on finance and one was on something else. And I said, well, did you get an aha moment out of that? Was it something that you remember? And they started spilling out stuff like left. I was like, yes, that's what I want. I want people to remember it, so they can take it and run with it, whatever it is, you know, so it can add value to their life.
Right.
And if it helps them to transition to another level, hey, I'm good. I'm good.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's good. And so it's good that you got response from the seniors. What about some young girls, young guys?
Yes. I've gotten responses from both of them, actually. Well, let's see. Okay, so of course with the red flags, some younger ladies. There was one in particular that my parents mentored to, and now she's an adult with her own children, and she was dating a young man. And I asked her if it was okay to share this, mind you.
Okay.
And the young guy didn't know who I was, and I called her phone, and I guess it just kept getting disconnected. But he had her phone for some reason. I guess she left it behind, and I was like, hey, man, speak with such and such. Oh, she's not here. Who's this? And I was like, you know, it kind of went there. He was just really that type of controlling guy, but she thought it was cute. And I told her, there's nothing cute about this. We've had this conversation before. I said, we need to set aside some time so we can talk. So that was that one little conversation. But she already knows. She's seen the show. She loved the show. But still, you have to keep reiterating sometimes, you know, repetition sometimes. And that's why I do what I do. So people can really get in. With the guys love, you know, they like real estate. They like guy stuff. So
guy stuff. That's funny.
Yeah, they like guy stuff. So for the most part, there was one show. Well, I've done plenty of shows on diabetes. So there were some of the guys. They were young though. Some young, a little bit older, and they said it actually helped them because they were going through that, but they didn't want to tell anyone because they thought it wasn't cool.
Going through diabetes? Oh wow.
They were challenged with that. They were just. I think they were just eating a lot of foods that weren't good for them. Back in the day, you could eat any and everything, but they have so many additives and everything, you know, you can't really trust it. So they didn't want to tell anyone that they were really going through those challenges, but they said it helped them. And they reached out to someone and they got some help. So I was like, oh, awesome. That's
great, especially when you see that or you hear that after you've done a show about a topic that someone is actually dealing with. And, you know, we don't talk enough, I think, about health.
No.
But you made a good point just now about how there's so many things that have been added to our foods right now. And having a show absolutely helps reach the people in the community with the things where they may not be, comfortable talking to someone in person, but they can watch. They can watch a show.
Absolutely, Dawn.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why we do what we do.
That is absolutely great that you do what you do.
Yes.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit more about how it feels to make an impact like that. What are some of the things that you just kind of meditate on after you hear somebody tell you that they have been touched by your show?
Well, sometimes, Dawn, I get emotional, believe it or not. I get emotional because it's actually a lot of hard work putting all the moving parts it takes to put your show together.
Right.
It's not just you just pop up and then you have a show. There's a lot of work that's involved. There's certifications that you have to go through, and after you go through that certification, then you have to do your more or less like internship, so to speak. Yeah,
I do. You're talking about basically, for the viewers who may not know what it takes to be a producer here, some of your labs where you apply what you've learned, and then you can go forward and do some more of your creative things. So yes, continue.
Okay, so with that, it is very rewarding just to see how people can find solitude, how they can have their life enlightened, so to speak, and then they'll be like, well, if I can do this, I can do that. Well, if she believes in me, then maybe I can do this.
Right.
It only takes one person. It only takes that one word, that one voice, that one hug, like I said, to impact people.
Right.
And sometimes that's all they really need. And sometimes even the fact of, even if it's a family member and they're telling them the right things to do, maybe in not so good of a way, or maybe they are. Sometimes it takes someone outside of their family to say, hey, maybe you might want to try it this way. Have you ever heard about this? So I like to bring new things to the, to the show, so they can be like, oh, okay, that's not like it's something that they've heard before, something that they may not have heard before, I get it.
That's awesome. And then, when you talk about what goes into putting your show on, after you have finished your certifications and your labs, talk to us about how you even prepare for a show and the behind the scenes and then on the set.
Oh my. Okay, so behind the scenes, I say a prayer first and say, okay, God, what should the topics be for the up and coming season? I think in terms of seasons, I'm led to certain guests per the topics at hand. I go and I call them, or either have someone from our team to reach out and speak with them, see if they're available, their time, see how we can coordinate the timing of when I'm going to be in the studio, and get people from the studio to assist in cameras and lighting and floor managers and all of those things. Write the script up, and I make it sound easy, don't I?
Well, listen, you basically I know,
really
and it's worth it though.
It is.
And it
so
sounds
worth it.
like
Yeah.
that's what you believe, and that you go through the steps, you've gone through the steps, and you continue to go through the steps that it takes in order to put a good show on, and something that's really going to affect people in the viewing audience. Like you said, that's why you do what you do.
Absolutely. And this is coming from a little girl. I was very shy.
Oh, really, Miss Linda?
Extremely shy, Dawn.
Wow.
Oh my gosh. Yes, and I like to talk a lot.
Yeah.
But anyway, this is coming from a little girl that used to spend some of her Saturdays just watching TV, just waiting, couldn't wait to see, the old films, the black and whites that would come on, and I would look at the design of the clothing. I would remember their names. I'm like, okay, this is Clark Gable, and this is this Julie Andrews or whatever from Sound of Music. I used to like Sound of Music. And at the very end, I would sit there and watch the names go by. I'm like, okay, this person, I remember they did the cameras on this movie. Yes, I was very young and just watching okay, this is the director. Yeah, he did that TV show that's on right now. That was me.
And look where it got you.
I know.
You didn't even, think
idea.
about where you might be, where you might end up. But it sounds to me that it was at that moment just kind of absorbed. You were absorbing all of that.
All of it, yeah.
And then to take what God has given you, and then the expertise that you have in your training, and bring all that together makes for a good show.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
most definitely. It takes a lot of work, but like I said, it's rewarding. It's very rewarding, but you have to be passionate about it.
There you go.
That passion has to drive you. If you don't have that passion, you're going to fizzle really fast.
And do you feel like the passion came because of your career and because of what you trained in, or would you say it was more personal experiences? What would you attribute to your passion?
I would have just attributed to the passion would be, I'm a preacher's kid. I actually like people. You know, I like people. Some people are not people persons. I really like everyone, whether they're black, white, Hispanic, you know, or whatever. It doesn't really matter for me. So I may have someone Caucasian on my show, may have someone, you know, of Indian descent. I may have someone from another race or
Absolutely.
whatever. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, it just doesn't matter.
Well, you know what? I think there's a lot of us who feel that way, and it's good to know that preachers' kids feel that way as well.
Oh, yeah.
Because whenever you are just passionate about being able to communicate with other people and make a difference in their lives, then you probably do end up in something like this, a field like this, and at Access 21, that's a place where you can have a good platform.
Oh, yeah.
And freedom of speech.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's super important, especially this day and age, to have that freedom of speech, to be able to shape it and mold it into what you believe that it should be. That's marvelous to be able to have that and have access to all the equipment and on that level. It's amazing. So I would suggest for anyone, if they're even interested in doing it, go for it. Just go for it.
I like to hear that because we definitely want people to go for it. And with in America, in America, the Constitution and that First Amendment is very important. And I think young people need to know that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they need to know that it's not what they see solely in their community. Some people are blinded or don't even know the difference, that there's more to life than what they see on TV. So I try to put positive things out there.
That's great.
You know, it's all about positivity and putting things out there that you would want your child to listen to. You know, something that you wouldn't be afraid and like, oh no, let me change the channel, and have to constantly monitor it. That you won't find that on my TV show. So I try to make it something to where you can just leave it rolling on Access 21 if you want to.
That is so good. And it sounds like, you know, you're thinking about, because you said before you didn't have children when we were talking off camera. Your sisters has children, but you still are like a big sister and a mentor to young people everywhere.
I am.
And then this show seems like an extension of that.
It really is.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that out. It really is an extension of that. And people used to ask me at a young age, are you a teacher? Are you a teacher? I'm like,
I get that
and I
too.
was going to go that route, but I chose not to. And it's okay because I do it on an everyday basis, every day. My father always taught me, and he had a wealth of wisdom. He said, Linda, you should learn something new every day.
That's good. That's good advice.
Every day. And I was like, really? And then afterwards, I'm like, oh, I see why.
Right.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Well, you know, Linda, wrapping this up, I would love to hear about one of the most memorable shows, or you not even just one. You can talk about a few that really stuck with you, that you didn't know. You talked about one guest that was realizing some things as she talked to you. How about what you may have realized as they talked to you, or as you were asking questions or listening to them? What were some of the most memorable things for you?
Well, one of them would have been my first show. I had a young lady by the name of Nellie Owusu. She's a minister in North Carolina, and she was just expressing, she was an advocate for diabetes. Okay, on that particular show, she got really emotional because she wished it was something that she could change. And I don't know whether it was something that, I can't recall, but I don't know whether it was something that was inherited, but she did everything she could to change that diagnosis. But she said she's always been a big girl and all these different things like that. But she always did try to do her best. And no matter what she did, you know, she couldn't seem to get the weight off faster. And she gave a testimony as to She said she's a walking, talking miracle, and how the doctor took her heart out and held it in his hand, and he put it back with mesh on top. So she's an advocate, you know. There was just so much that went on that show, and she also was crying because she had mentioned she mentioned that, you know, people, they seem to put you in a certain place. You know, they judged her because she was overweight, but it was something that, you know, she had no control of, but she is, you know, true to herself. She's an awesome person, you know, so that she just showed how people can be judgmental, and she just gave it like a little analysis of when she got on the airplane and she couldn't fit into the seat, you know, that type of thing. Yeah, but there was also another one. It was one on human trafficking, and her name is Joy. She's a lovely young lady, and she was all in the papers. But what I noticed that they did on television as well, she was. It's like she was an object, and it was like she wasn't a human being. I said, man, I'd love to interview her and just shed a light, because she's someone's daughter, she's someone's mother and wife. And so she agreed to come on the show, and I believe that one was one of the best ones. She broke down. She said, yeah, I may have been adopted, but I had loving parents. I didn't come from a disruptive home, that type of, you know, dysfunctionality. Granted, every household has a touch of dysfunctionality, different levels, but with her, she said, my parents did all the right thing. It was just, you know, I just wanted to be a little knucklehead or whatever, but you know, it goes to show you that poor decisions lead to destruction sometimes, so you have to really you know, try your best to make the right decisions. But she went into the dialogue of, you know, hey, she got caught up in another life, and they snatched her, you know, and she ended up being out there on the street and was sex trafficked. And so you know, I think the FBI got involved or whatever, and they did a sting, and they found her.
Wow.
Praise God, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So now she's an advocate as well, and she sings, and she wrote her own music and all that. I had her sing on the show, so it just made for just a really enlightening night.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
It really sounds like it. And it sounds like, you know, there's more that we can look forward to on your show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so how about tell us and tell the viewers when your show airs? My show airs, it's on a monthly basis right now, but I will soon be on a weekly basis on every third Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. on Access 21. Okay, and it'll still be called Empowerment for Life. Empowerment for Life with Linda Carr. All right. That's me. That's excellent. Sounds good. Sounds wonderful, Linda. Thank you. Well, Linda, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for having me. You know, just in the little snippets that you have shared, it sounds like there's such good things out there. You know, good stories that you've already covered, and there's more to be covered. More to come. Oh, so yeah. Look forward to it. That's what I was going to say. We'll look forward to it. Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much. You're welcome. You guys, in the between time, for the future shows of Empowerment for Life with Linda Carr, check on video on demand at TVAccess21.com. We'd love to also hear from you, and we hope one day you are a producer so you can sit right here in the studio with us and we can let everyone else see what you're doing. So thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.